Greetings, friends and family. Would you give us a couple of minutes? The three writers of today's panel are being interviewed by News 12 backstage, so we just need a couple more minutes, all right? Thanks. All right, it's showtime, it's showtime. And where I come from, they would say, good evening, Skinner Park. That's a throw to a really central part of Trinidadian culture at the Skinner Park, where they have Calypso Monarch contests. Thank you so much for being here with us, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. I see the weather is changing outside. I think these writers would call that pathetic fallacy. Okay, is that what we call it? But thank you for being here. At Root and Remedy, the island isn't silent. This conversation features three of my absolute favorites, and I feel like I'll keep saying that over and over this weekend because everybody's my favorite. No, for real, they are. I am M1, Marsha Messiah. I have the privilege and the honor of running this literary ship that's afloat here in the diaspora. My team and I work really hard, and this is not our full-time job, I promise, but it behaves as if it's a full-time job, to bring these writers together, those who are documenting our histories, our stories, our genealogies. We do this every September, and the Center for Fiction has been a partner since 2019. And in 2019, the Center for Fiction opened its doors, and we've enjoyed just the most fun partnership that we could think of. I want to ask you, please, to give my team a round of applause for everything that they do and pour into this. We literally, Melanie and I, that is the BCLF, we could not do it without their contributions and their support. This theme, Root and Remedy, comes, we believe, at a really seminal turning point in our existence, in whatever civilization you identify with, whether you're a Caribbean person, whether you're a Caribbean American person, whether you're an American person, whether you're an immigrant, whether you're Black, LGBT, it doesn't matter. This theme, Root and Remedy, is here to provide what we believe are prescriptions of hope, prescriptions that will bring succor, that will bring relief, even if it's temporary. Root and Remedy encourages all of us to look towards Caribbean stories for the balm and for the clarity and for the direction that we as Caribbean people who live here in the diaspora have always known they possess. The Island Isn't Silent is a Literary Botánica conversation featuring Kei, Jason, and Lauren, and it's presented for the very first time in collaboration with the Furious Flower Poetry Center. And I cannot underscore how important it is for an organization, a fledgling organization such as ours, to be powered and empowered by the support of cultural, iconic institutions like the Center for Fiction and Furious Flower Poetry Center. So can we please also give a round of applause for Lauren K. Alleyne, who has made this happen. It's a panel discussion, multi-genre reading. It will be the most fun thing one of the most fun things that you will experience for your entire weekend. And I'd just like to center what the conversation is about before we start. In a world fraying at its edges through displacement, climate threat, and spiritual fatigue, what remains sacred? What sounds, what languages, and what ancestral echoes do we still carry? The Island Isn't Silent brings together three powerful Caribbean voices, Jason Allen-Paisant, Kei Miller, and Lauren K. Alleyne, to reflect on poetry's ability to map survival, re-enchantment, and belonging in uncertain times. Through readings and conversations, these writers will delve into the landscapes, literal and metaphorical, that have shaped their work, the shifting geographies of migration, the music of memory, and the language of spiritual and political inheritance. Anchored by this year's Literary Botánica theme, the event draws on the idea that poetry and prose are both remedy and ritual, and they offer not only witness to grief and upheaval, but pathways to resilience. At the heart of the conversation is hope, not as abstraction, but as a living, grounded force. And Jason's new work of literary nonfiction, The Possibility of Tenderness, infuses the natural world with a language of care, inviting us to reimagine softness as a form of power. This theme of quiet strength and healing threads through the work of each panelist, channeling the assumption that survival must be hard-edged. Together, this evening, this afternoon, they will consider how the Caribbean imagination continues to offer what this world needs most, a vocabulary of rootedness, a cadence of care, and the sacred sound of possibility. This conversation is a garden of listening, a ceremony of sound, and a reminder the island has never been silent. It has only waited for us to hear. Would you please put your hands together as we welcome to the BCLF 2025 stage my absolute faves, Kei, Jason, and Lauren. And for those of you who do not know, and they have letters to their names, so y'all better put some respect on this. All of them have big letters. Jason is a professor, a Jamaican scholar, award-winning poet and writer. He's to the far left. His work explores how Afro-diasporic artists and communities shape their futures through embodied philosophies, focusing on the intersection of poetry and philosophy. He's the author of 2 critically acclaimed books of poetry, and his debut collection, Thinking with Trees, won the 2022 OCM Book Prize for Caribbean Poetry, and it was also shortlisted for a bunch of stuff. If I read bios, I'd be here forever. These people are decorated. Which brings me to the point, y'all cannot leave. Y'all cannot leave the Center for Fiction without buying a book. If y'all have been following us, y'all understand that the center will not be sending books back on consignment. I'm not taking them back home to my little 2-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn, so it's your responsibility to support their work. We also have Kei Miller, who's the author of 12 books that range across genres, both fiction, nonfiction, actually fiction, nonfiction, poetry. He's interested both in movement between genres and between creative writing and literary scholarship. In 2014, he won the Forward Prize for Poetry for The Cartographer Tries to Map a Way to Zion. Kei was also one of those writers in 2019 when we embarked on this journey who joined us in Brooklyn for the very first time. And it is, in the year of completion, number 7, my absolute delight that he's here with us again this afternoon. And Miss Lauren K. Alleyne, the anchor who's going to keep the ship afloat or on the ground. I'm not sure what we're going to do today with the two of them. But you're going to do something special. Is the author of Difficult Fruit, published by People Tree Press in 2014, and Honeyfish, published in 2018 by Green Rose Prize in New York. Oh, sorry, was in that?
New Issues Press.
New Issues Press, thank you. Lauren's work has been widely published in journals and anthologies such as The Atlantic, Miss Muse, Women's Studies Quarterly, Guernica, The Caribbean Writer, and Crab Orchard Review, among many others. So y'all have like the absolute best of poetry in front of you this afternoon. We want you to clap until your palms are sore. Please support their work. And when you're done, buy some merch at the back. All right, thank you.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm supposed to wrangle these two and myself, so this will be an interesting ride. I want to start off with the first hat as the Executive Director of the Fierce Flower Poetry Center at James Madison University, where I'm so excited, having been a participant at the BCLF over the years, to enter into a more official partnership, putting a little other things where our mouths and hearts are. And so I'm really happy to be in this space and to sponsor this panel, conversation, bacchanal, whatever it turns out to be. And I want to say a little bit about Fierce Flower, which is the nation's first academic center dedicated to Black poetry. It's located at James Madison University, where I'm a professor and the executive director. We do a lot of things. I have swag and merch that I'll give to you all in the back later, and I invite you to check us out on social media and on the website, etc. And I'm going to say that my official hat as ED ends here, and that anything I read in the future has nothing to do with my employer. And thank you for listening. Okay. And so I guess I'm going to kick it off because the thing I said to these guys was, when you read that brief, which y'all, whoever's doing the brief writing is really wonderful and brilliant. Again, thanking Masha and the team. I was just curious, like, what was your response when you read that? I know I had a couple of things, but I'm curious to hear what y'all thought when we heard again this idea of the sound, the silent, the island is in silence. Poetry, it's so rich, right? It's like, I'll put my whole teeth into it. And I know for me, I was thinking of several things. I was thinking about what lingers, right? As a person who, I mean, it's horrifying to me how long ago I left Trinidad at this point. But I came for college, right? And there's still, even as I feel like I matured into a writer in the United States, that I write from a very Caribbean, a very calypso. I wrote calypsos for my sister. That was what we did when we were younger. And writing from a very engaged socially POV, and going to school in places like Iowa, where literally people say, we don't talk about politics, religion, and money. And I'm like, what else is there? I feel like you've just shut down the entire conversation, right? And so all the dialogue about politics and poetry not having a relationship, for me, it was so foreign to me, right? And so I think for me, thinking about, of course we use language to navigate these moments. Of course we use language to understand and to think about and to wrestle with, and inshallah to change our social conditions. Of course language is a remedy. Of course language is the root. And so on the one hand I was just like, and at the same time, I'm very aware that words are words, right? And so they have a certain kind of power, but they don't have other kinds of power. Words can't stop genocide, right? Words can't stop war. And so how to live in that tension is something that I think I wrestle with as a writer, that I'm concerned with as a citizen now, 2 years in, wondering if that was the best decision of my life, but yeah, and as a human being, of course, living in community with, other humans, with the earth, how do we think about language? So that's where my mind went, boss.
Oh God, is that with me? I always want to be honest, right? Obviously, I want to be honest. I slightly felt overwhelmed when I read it. Just because I think I'm in a place where I'm not sure what I believe anymore. These ideas of what remains sacred. Like, what is sacred? How did it become sacred? how did we story it into the sacred? Is that sacred still valuable to us right now? So just how does the human story his landscape and make possibilities through that storying of the landscape? These are the things that interest me. And it's difficult. These thoughts are always difficult for me. And so I think I was stuck on that, on this idea of just making things sacred. Like, how did humans end up in this part of the world that we call the Caribbean? And how did we invent all of these stories that we move in and we operate in right now? Stories like race. But I mean all the stories of man that have no place in the biological world, no place in the natural world. I'm talking about realities that we have simply, it is the way that we fiction things until they thicken into what we call reality. And therefore, how do we work through each layer of the fictions of man to come to some kind of truth? I know that sounds up there, but that is honestly what I thought. I read it and I just felt myself wrestling with it and trying to find, where do I stand as a Caribbean person in the world right now, a Caribbean man who is read as black, who is read as queer, who lives in Miami but moved from Scotland. Just, how do I make sense of it? And the truth is, I'm not sure. We'll talk through these things, but...
I also like to say, when I asked him about what it's like to live in Florida, he's like, I don't live in Florida, I live in Miami.
True. And I do not live in Miami, I live in Miami Beach. And it's literally two different cities. So, but yeah, Jason, help us out. I mean, we are all friends, and Jason brings so much clarity to everything.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Fix us.
Yeah, help us out.
I actually thought about your book when I read it. The
Yeah.
first thing that came to my mind was your book, In Nearby Bushes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out why. I think it had something to do with, there's an eeriness about the title, but I think it's been a while since we read poems, but I think the poems deal with eeriness as well.
Right.
I mean, there's something lurking, there is a threat. So when I heard that this island isn't silent, that's where my mind went.
Right.
And when I first started to think about the woodlands, I was in Leeds, so it was the woodlands. In Jamaica is the bush. So it was through a kind of prism of, I went back to a certain point in childhood where the bush was threat.
Right.
Where the bush was where, I even talk about this in a poem, like there was some threats in the bush, but it's also mystery in the bush. A part of why you don't go there is because probably things happening that's you're not ready for, you know, fear yet, you know,
Right.
like people leaving bottles, the revive, the poco, the rapid people them are leaving things in the bush,
Right.
and then we were the church people, so you know, say.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's a kind of Africanness that was a threat as well.
Right.
You know what I mean? Thinking about it like that. So I guess that feeds a lot into this idea of this island isn't silent. The island isn't silent, because I think the island is making a lot of noises.
Yeah. But the other part of that, Jason, I was thinking, you know how Jamaicans, we say Jamaica land we love, part of the anthem. And recently I was thinking, well, we really love Jamaican culture and we love Jamaican people. We don't love Jamaican land. And so what is the voice of the actual country? Because from the get-go, we have just systematically destroyed the landscape of the Caribbean. I mean, that's what slavery was. It was a bunch of people saying, we cannot to make the kind of production that we need at the level that we need. We cannot destroy the European landscape like that. Therefore, nobody is here, nobody needs anything. Let us just demolish, let us flatten everything and just make it a plantation, a field. From the get-go, the landscape was destroyed. This kind of romanticism that we have for the landscape it seems that it doesn't go deep enough, that we are not really committed to land justice or what the land needs or what land cries out for in the Caribbean. And the harm that we've been doing to land it just has been going on for so many hundreds of years, and we are so used to it and so at peace with it, as long as Caribbean culture and Caribbean people are happy and survive. I'm not sure how I feel about that anymore.
Yeah, but I think not all the people on the land, not all the inhabitants are destroying and not stewarding and not, kind of doing violence to the land. Not necessarily out of some lofty ideal or whatever, but just because they have to live, off it. So you have a lot of people who all they want to do is to be able to just live off the land, keep on living off the land, for the land to be healthy, and those people still are out there. I mean, one thing that interests me is that we have such different ideas of land. When we say land in Jamaica, there's such different things can come to mind. The lands in the interior where people are working the land, that doesn't have the romanticism attached to it, right? It's not as desired, like coveted as the land on the coast, or near the coast. We have a sea view. I'm trying to buy a sea view too. Well, not too close to the sea, but I mean,
climate change is real.
Yeah. But it's just to say that land has different
these
values,
layers. I want to interject to say too, one of the things that is dinging around my brain, the idea of systems and sacred, right? And how those are in conflict, because there's the system of the colonial capital, the plantation, all the things, and then the idea of what it means to be able to feed yourself and your family, right? To like live off the land. Outside of me, that's what your book is kind of thinking about, right? Like how to kind of circumvent those systems and find a way to be respectful and to be healing, but also to survive. And we can't also, I think, forget or take off the table that for so many African descended people and the folks who came to the Caribbean, it was about working the land, right? And so that even that connection with the land has to do with, or has system of capital and systems of thinking are imbricated in that original reason, right? And so, all these years later, all these centuries later, we still have to, what has become sacred, what is not sacred, what is looked down on, what is coveted, is still so deep, right, in relationship again to what is kind of systematic and what is sacred. And I'm going to use my moderator moment here to say, why don't you read us something to give us some fodder for this conversation?
Sure, let's do that. This passage is from chapter 2, and here at this point where I begin to read, it's this name refers to Nancy Pond. It's a place that my mother and I are on this walk, and we're going to this place. I heard this name all the time as a child in the stories my mother told. Nancy Pond is a place she went to often, a place around which she played. It's part of the geography of her childhood. There is magic in the name Nancy Pond. I've always been hungry for the story behind the name, for projecting myself into those childhood stories of insouciant play. My mother's face would light up and her voice would get brighter when she told them. Those are her best memories. There is a familiarity with the land in the way she said Nancy Pond, a sense of place shared among people. Her tales recreated the place right before her eyes. I've always wanted to visit Nancy Pond, and yet, despite its apparent proximity to Coffee Grove, that's the place where I grew up, and that's where my family from, and its location near the postal agency in Mount Pleasant, where Mama took me daily during the working week, Nancy Pond remained strangely inaccessible to me. If it was her place of joy, why did my mother never take me there herself? Was she afraid of what that joy would awaken? My people are folks who believe that if good moments happened, you'd better leave them where they were. Was there a fear of the emotions that would resurface through the reliving of memories? My folks are a people of silence and willed forgetting. There's no explanation for why we didn't go to Nancy Pond, no explanation for the fact that my mother never took me to her childhood home. I was 37 years old when I had my first glimpse of this home. I'd come back on vacation from Leeds. It took going to live in England for me to see the land on which my mother was born and on which she grew up. Years of traveling then all over the world and a life built away from home for me to finally visit this place, a 10-minute drive away from Coffee Grove. For so much of my life, it was a place almost unreachable. It would have been very possible for my grandmother to take me there in the days when I lived with her, but she had an aversion to the place, was unable to bring herself back there. I didn't realize it then, but there was a wall between her and that old home that was insurmountable. And that was all the history between her and Daddy Joe, a history of hurt, separation, and loss. One of shame and of the unspeakable, of muteness. A perversive sense of hurt encapsulating her existence was epitomized by the inevitable wall that separated her from the land in Mount Pleasant, despite her role as the postal agent within the district. The site of the former house was just a walk away. But this stone's throw distance seemed for her a distance of continents. She made it so. I did wonder back in the day why she didn't venture there. I wondered silent about many things, since asking questions wasn't allowed. I had been raised in our world to know that children didn't have the right to ask questions, that things unsaid were better left unsaid, that it was devious, scheming, ungrateful to want to know the details of big people's lives and their doings. I had been raised to think that to know the story of Daddy Joe and Mama was a disrespect to my elders. There were so many silences in my world. There's something about the water, about Nancy Pond, about Dam Head, and the centrality of water in the community's life. It may simply speak to how people lived back then. Water was a resource that was shared. People would have to go and fetch it from certain places, and so those places played a significant role in the life of the community. They became meeting points. People depended on them. They were significant points in one's inner map of place. And those places open up like flowers in my imagination. They bloom with the musicality of their names. They seem important to who I am, though I hardly know them. In fact, to date, of all the places of water, I've only been to Dam Head, and that only a few years ago, having known it solely as a place inhabited by my mother's stories. But the names symbolize something atavistic, perhaps something I can't get a hold of, an idea of speech, of language, of sound, a deep intuition about the land, about the body, about how we make lives and how we move. It's the way places are named after people as well, Nancy Pond, the way the names carry undocumented stories. It's the absence of a record that intrigues me. The idea that I cannot and perhaps will never know the meaning behind Nancy Pond. Perhaps we didn't have the possibility of recording that history. It's all oral storytelling within the peasantry. Perhaps that history transmitted orally for a long time somehow escaped us. I'm fascinated by all the histories that escape us. I'm fascinated by all the histories that escape us. To narrate the tales of these lesser-known lands and their minor characters is also an attempt to compensate for these lost stories, or at least a gesture of recognition towards them.
Thank
So
you.
I'll leave it there.
I have a question for you about writing and bringing it back to language. What was revelatory about writing these places and documenting the undocumented? Because you're saying, I have no documentation, but you're saying it in a book, no?
But I guess the journey of the book is the journey of the documentation. I think that was what I wasn't always necessarily conscious. Was I conscious of doing it? Perhaps not on every level. I know that the book demanded walking the land. So it's the oral history, and I think what I was conscious of was perhaps that I couldn't find the records in the archives themselves, right? So no need to. Well, it turns out that I did go to the archives, as you know, but the first thing, the wager was to say how how much of the story of this land can I find out by just walking and looking deeper and closer than I would normally look, but also talking with people, because people have a lot of stories and they might tell you that they don't know anything, but just start talking with them, and 3 hours later, sometimes it takes a little time, you know, you have to go in a bar and buy a round of drinks or something, and then you talk, and then probably 1 hour later a name comes out and you're like, that's something I can hang on to. Because I can take that and I can go ask somebody else. And probably that one name can take me to the archives. I can probably go look for a land deed, or I can probably try to see if that person owned a whole heap of land. You know, I can probably try to find their story within at Twickenham Park in the archives and stuff like that. So I think, I hope I'm answering your question, but it's a very oral book, you know. It's very built around, as Erna Brodber would say, Erna Brodber talks about land knowledge, but it's really, Olive Senior has this expression, ground truth, you know, which comes from surveying, the profession of surveying, actually. Surveyors talk about ground truth, the truth about the land that you can know only by walking it, you know? So, yeah.
Oh, that's what I think.
What do I think?
Yeah. I know you have thoughts in there.
No, not yet.
Read?
Sure. No, I can. I'll read if you want. Okay. Now, after Jason, you say I'd go back to the book before and read all the place name poems.
Oh, yeah?
But
I have a couple more.
You have a copy?
Oh, no.
Okay, I'll read. This is the book I was thinking of. The only embarrassment I have is that 7 years ago when I was here, I'm sure it's the same book we did read from. I don't like reading the same thing, but the theme of this seems to suggest these poems. And so I'll read 3 poems from this. This book is called In Nearby Bushes. It's what Jason was referring to, and every Jamaican will know that phrase. It don't seem like a complicated phrase, but in Jamaica it always signals bad things. It's always the news, it's always somebody dead, somebody was raped, the body was found in nearby bushes, the prisoners escaped in nearby bushes. There's a sense that the nearby bushes is a magical place that every gunman have access to, but not the authority, because from the nearby bushes come up, criminals are gone. But I did begin to think about that landscape as just a space that different kinds of encounters could happen. And some of them, I guess, slightly magical, like this one. And this story begins in 1987. Man in Jamaica decides for a Christmas show to bring 6 reindeer to the island of Jamaica. As one does, right? Because what is a Christmas show without 6 reindeer? Vincent, whatever. Christmas done, what to do with these 6 reindeer? So they take the reindeer to Portland, to a place called Somerset Falls. Hello, Portland representing in the audience. Well, come around to 1988, the reindeer are lovely, prancing around, is now a petting zoo. Hurricane Gilbert strikes and destroys the farm. The reindeer escape. The weird thing that happens in this moment is that they are in Portland. Portland is exactly where the Maroons were, and there were paths that they kind of created, and that's where they ran. Well, the reindeer took the same paths, and they ran into the mountains, escaped. In the wild, the reindeer did exactly what the Maroons did. They made community, they built family, they made culture with each other. I did not know they had a thing called, I'm sorry, I'm speaking more than the poem.
Go on, man.
But apparently they have censuses of reindeer. So they did a census the other day to see how much reindeer are in Jamaica, and it is estimated that there are now between 6,000 to 8,000 reindeer in the hills of Portland. Here we run the wild deer. Here where run the wild deer, the Caribbean caribou. Does this surprise you? Deer without snow. Not even the possibility of snow. Here, they're like echoes of a long story, the brutal history of displaced, which is not to say they are not their own stories, but that they know, as we do, the tightness of ships and how to lose whole continents and how to be wary of white men wielding whips and how to end up here. There is such a thing as the perfect storm. It includes an actual storm and deer in weak cages and the nearby bushes. How wonderful to escape into hills that have always been escaped. They are the new maroons at dawn. They descend on quiet hooves to loot from the estates. But maybe that isn't fair. I shouldn't say estates, but farms. On the 7 o'clock news, a man spreads his arms to show the field of ruined carrots. Have mercy. Them nam ever God Almighty thing. And then he faces camera, but is looking somewhere beyond the absent harvest, his mind lighting on memory. But Jesus Christ, he breathes. Them so pretty. His face now a curious thing, as if ashamed or puzzled. He should just now recognize their beauty, the magnificence of their being, or accepting too late. This may have been their payment, the price of carrots, to be seen. It is easier to hear the deer whose sounds are like doors on old hinges at nights. Listen. The landscape is creaking, as if these bushes open themselves to drunk men just now stumbling home. Here, where the wild deer roam. Here, where dried branches may not be dried branches, but the majesty of antlers. Here, where white flowers may not be white flowers, but the blossoming of their tails. The strange warning of deer we do not see well, but we sense you are here. With us in this strange, strange land. Will you come now to the river? Will you teach us King Alpha's song and how to survive Babylon, how to belong where we do not belong? That is our short song. And this is just a weird one because I was researching this book. I remember listening to this video, and this woman was talking about the cure. She's a bush healing woman, and she had cures for all kinds of ailments. And she listed this thing as a cure for black tube. And I wondered, what was black tube? I kept on, and when I realized what black tube was, I felt so stupid. But anyway, so the whole poem came out of that silliness in my mind. But anyway, the poem is called Here Where's the Cure. Here where is the cure for black tube? And you had to ask, please, Miss Beatrice, what is black tube? And though her words were patient, her eyes said something different. Is born stupid, or is university turn you fool? Black tube, she explains, is when woman can't get pregnant. Here, you must make adjustment for the greener sound of things. Blocked tubes, black tube, same thing. Here, the strangest cure for stuttering, it goes like this. Collect rainwater in a calabash, beat it with a wooden pestle. Though some splashing is inevitable, be careful not to lose much water. Now drink 1 teaspoon each morning, and soon you will find the balance of your tongue, your speech smooth as song. Here, where's the cure for belly hot? And you didn't even have to ask, please, Miss Beatrice, what is belly hot? You have made adjustment for the greener sound of things, not belly ache, not belly hurt, but belly hot. Now boil donkey weed with collie mint in a clean pot. Sweeten if you must with honey. Here where grows the standing body, the strong back. These are cure for weak man with useless cock. Search me heart is for weak heart. Eye bright is for weak eye. Scorn the earth is medicine for woman. Its name is its instruction. Plant most heaven bound. Its powers bones are diminished if it touches ground. Here, where's the cure for thief? Here, where's the cure for grudgeful? Here, where's the cure for the picnic you never want? I dare not write these remedies down, but their ingredients grow here, amongst the orchids, amongst the deer who sound like doors, in the wild and blossoming night. Here, where's the cure? Sorry. Over that figure.
Well, we're leaning into the remedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't remember that poem, but it made me think of, in the book I was talking as well, about how people just name the herbs and the plants them after the usage, right? So it's like the name itself is a story. Or it carries a narrative, you know?
What amazes me is how so many of those names are like folk derivatives from a Latin name. So like Simple Bible is from Simple Vivum. It's like, yeah, it's like, how did they, why were they interacting with a Latin name? And yeah, there are a few plants in the Caribbean where the name that we commonly call it is the folk doing something to the very Latin sounding name and making it more just, you know, homey and comfortable. You can touch it and hold it. I mean, I love that way how we name things in the Caribbean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one of the things, so I'm laughing, I saw Marsha laughing at me because she gave me two options for a panel, and I was like, I don't do this, do not give me the bush panel. And we inevitably arrived in the nearby bushes.
In the bush?
In the bush, in the woods. And I was saying to Jason that, you know, I was so grateful to read the book because it opened up certain things for me around, again, these possibilities of land. But I want to go back to something you said earlier when you said there's so many layers to the meaning of land, because the way I also entered into this is how do we use language to construct the idea of land, our land, all right, a place, how we use it to belong where we don't belong, and how it is used to unbelong us, right? From the places that we live, that we cultivate, that we cultivate ourselves and our communities. And so again, I want to bring back in the panel that we thinking about here too around the idea of story, silence, and the things that we're also discussing around land. So I'm just going to throw that out as a giant prompt for us to wrestle with for a second. There.
Well, I don't want it as a prompt. I'm going to take over moderating for a while because we want to hear from you. And so could you now read your poems and yet run with that idea?
Could only have one professor on this panel. So I was having the same kind of moment because like I was here last year. I was like, I don't know really think how much writing getting done in these 12 months, but it's always a good occasion to have to revisit your work because I actually have been doing these. I'll just read a couple of things that I've been doing. One of them was, where's to start? You'll get it just from this title, Writer's Block. What poetry to write this bloody morning, with its snipers and handcuffed students, with its foreign dead, with its hungry cancer eating your friend's bones, with the bones of unearthed children unearthed from a Palestinian mass grave, with the planet's rising human-fed fever, with your mother's voice crackling with pain across the long-distance call, with the masses in you feeding themselves on your stocked-up griefs, with the words squeezed into silences so dense they crush you, alphabet, throat, and song. Catalog of what we attempt to survive. The wars in our skin, the wars in our minds, the wars on our screens, the wars launched in the name of love, the wars against which we clench our fists, the wars for which we bloodied our hands, the wars against fascism, the wars against democracy, the wars against drugs, the war for drugs we could afford, the wars for our bodies, the wars in our schools, the wars taking our children hostage, the wars our children are fighting with themselves, the wars against hunger, the wars in which we starve our enemies and their children, the silent wars, the corporate wars, the financial wars, the CIA-funded wars, the underfunded wars, the guerrilla wars, the genocidal wars, the gender wars, the ideological wars, the wars so ancient we misremember their origins, the wars so invisible we are blind to their waging, the wars ravaging our planet, the wars to save our planet, the wars against our extinction, the wars that will bring it inevitably upon us. Yeah. So as you see, and then I was thinking about, they asked us for music, and I realized that I'm stuck in a certain time period of being about 14 to 16, but also I never think of anything from anywhere else when people ask me for a song except from home. And I was really leaning into to David Rudder's 1990. I didn't end up giving it to her, but I love Rudder. That's my boy. But this story and that 1990, of course, is a poem about the coup that happened in Trinidad. And it made this poem. The song didn't make this poem, but this poem happened, and then that song was playing in my head when they asked me for music. So, cool. I was 10. I was at home with my siblings watching television. The men appeared on the screen in white robes and hats, long black guns strapped across their chests. They had taken Parliament and the one TV station hostage. I, reader of adventure stories, sprang into action. I became the captain, my siblings my wide-eyed troops. I gave them their orders: lock all the doors and windows, fill the buckets with water, find candles and matches, grab flashlight and batteries. I readied us with kitchen knives, the cricket bat, and Daddy's hammer. I confess to the thrill of it, the promise of disaster spicing up our boring, normal lives. I miss the certainty of that young girl, brave and unafraid, and believing she knew exactly what to do. I think I'll read one more. I have the one I'm looking for is the one that'll probably get me in trouble. So last year, I think I read Gretel poems. The poems I've been writing for years now in the voice of Gretel, and I was thinking about what about that is Caribbean, and certainly the story, the idea of folk and story, but also, I don't know, I think we love to use another lens to see something. So I had some double entendre poems in there. We're not reading that today. But this, like I tell everybody, Gretel and I are fast, and we're just in everything. And so last year was, I read around, but since then, this is maybe the one that I feel is, no, I didn't share it, and I just want to share it. Gretel in Palestine. There are no words for what is here and is not. How to describe a body unstitched from itself? What are eyes evicted from their skull house, or a stain where once stood a sibling? Cries crawl into ears that can take them nowhere. A flock of answerless tongues wither, taking the shape of beloved names into the dust. Look, a woman, her smile wet as honey, her hair a forest crown, wanders, though her feet have left in search of home without her.
All right, so as I continue to mark, just for one more question, but I want us to go back to that initial idea in in the brief, this idea of what remains sacred, because that is a hard question. And I think rather than thinking about it in any kind of airy-fairy way, like what is sacred for you? Like, and I can make a pitch for, because I mean, I certainly grew up in church.
But they have 3 church people up here.
Okay.
Oh, you too?
Yeah, pastor daughter.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's always a difficult question for me. I feel that through life I get disenchanted from so many things. And if I had to answer that, what is truly sacred for me now, there's probably only one answer, and it is a strange answer. It is my job. I believe in the academy. I believe in the university. I do not believe it is a thing. I believe that how it is explained to the world, it is not how I see it. I don't believe the primary job of a university is to teach anyone. That is how the university makes itself relevant and understandable and legible to a community at large. But the university really is a guild. It is a guild that does not belong to governments or anything like that. And it is a guild that understands that there is intellectual content in this world, and that content must be made safe, and that content must be grown. And I take that job seriously. Keep intellectual content safe and grow it. That is the job. And that I do find sacred. I do demand a lot from my students. Even if it's a creative writing students, I demand a lot of how you approach things with intellect, and how you research it, how you understand it, and what kind of answers you're satisfied with. We are always so satisfied with the stories of man. From man began to tell stories, what is astonishing is not that we tell stories, but that we believe every story we tell each other. Why? There's a place for cynicism in this world, and for just digging deeper and probing harder. And that is one of the weird things I hold on to still. So if we think about language and this world, that is what it is for me.
That's really interesting. I find myself in a slightly different space around the academy. I think institutions inevitably disappoint.
Absolutely.
And they're infinitely co-optable. I think, the pandemic was one of those moments for me. I was just like, you can become so many things in this world without a university. You don't need a university to be a writer, for example. Yeah. But you kind of do to be a scientist. And then what we did was, we said, we will ignore our product of scientists to tell people they have to come here to have an experience. I was just like, we're undermining our own our own purpose in some ways, right? And then I think in this moment, I work at a state institution. Yeah, I know the private life, right? And so I think that the vulnerability that we're seeing in the contemporary moment of the academy to, again, how these systems invade what is sacred, right? And corrupt them, undermine them, challenge them, weaken them, all the things, right? And so on the one hand, I think it is important to hold on to the sacredness and of purpose and mission, but also it is, again, in the position I'm in, to be strategic, right, about how we're going to make sure we stick around to enact that purpose, right?
But perhaps your sacred don't come from that place. Like for you personally, where did you find the sacred?
So, and to kind of move on with that, I think one of the things that I've been really, even, and I didn't read any of the kind of chronicle poems that I've just been doing these very stream of consciousness. I think I'm a little embarrassed when everyone's like, oh, I have them, I don't know if I was, but there are these chronicles. I'm just saying what's happening. And I think the assault right now is on, it's a battle of narratives. Like, I'm like, I am not crazy. You are crazy. This is crazy. And I think the refusal to surrender my sense of what is right and what is real, I think that is sacred. And so on the one hand, I feel like the disempowerment of language, what are words going to do in the face of all of these things? But for me, as a person who, and the Adrian-rich sense is like, shaped by, like, I work with language, I think in language, I understand myself and reality in language, and I cannot see language. I can't, because then I see myself. And so that is sacred, right? In the most biblical and unbiblical of terms, the word. We can't give it away. We can't let them take it.
What about you, Chase? Thank you. Yeah, proper.
Say what?
I am stumped. I'm here, I'm digging, and no matter how deep I dig, I'm not coming up with anything that convinces me.
Yeah, and we should never force ourselves to give an answer in these
But
moments.
the thing about it is that I do feel, something deep in me does feel that there are things that are sacred for all of us. I guess the thing where, and probably this is what you're getting at, is that I do get suspicious as well of terms that come too easy.
Right.
We use them so often that they begin to lose their force and their power potentially, and probably
Their sacredness.
sacred is one of them. But I to be honest, I'm being like a pendulum on this one. I think that the things that are sacred are the things that we fight over. We're ready to fight over. So for me, I'm ready to fight over time, because that's a historical thing in my generation, right? I like that has just become something, I don't know, for me, where because and I'm from a matrifocal family, and I see my mother, my grandmother, great-grandmother, these generations of women who didn't have the time to sit down, they didn't feel that they had the right, they were authorized to sit and look into space, to sit and daydream, to sit and not, or probably they didn't have the time to have the time, you know? So it's like I feel sometimes that at my level, me now intervening in history and time, and I am given space to fight, to fight over this, to say, to fight over this, to say, look, I'm gonna be a poet. I'm gonna write about birds and trees. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be a poet. I'm gonna notice shit. I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna stop and just notice. Who if I take? You know?
And it's rebellion.
That's my rebellion. You know? That's my sacredness. Poetry is my sacredness.
Yeah. But I like that. But I mean, because I think this gives us things to hold on to. Like, what is worth fighting over? It's worth fighting over for your time. It's worth fighting over language. It's for
but
me,
it's complex, because if you don't have a job.
Well, I don't know.
Because I'm talking about, you see what I mean? We have to be careful of the, I'm talking about time or whatever, but at the same time, it's because I'm a professor, and so I keep on, I think that's one of the things
you recognize your privilege.
I stay in dialogue with my dead people. Because I'm saying, how the hell me come to on professor? You know, it's like, it's so unlikely.
Right.
You know what I mean? In my history and my generation. So I have the space to have time, you know? So it's weird. It's a very strange thing.
I think what's beautiful about all of this, though, again, I'm thinking back of the non-silence, right? And some of it is being able to, the privilege, the right, the ability, the sacredness of articulating our own contexts, right? Which is kind of what I was saying before. I'm like, it's not, you don't just want to look at flowers because you don't want to do something else, but what is that action? What is that impulse? How does it live in time and history, right? How does it live generation? I don't know, I feel like being able to articulate that and being able to say, this is the space from which this emerges. You have to name your context, because somebody else will name it for you and call you lazy, right? And no, that's not what that is, right? So again, this is me pulling back to the language becomes the thing that allows us, as you said earlier, to story things into sacredness, but not your story, right? And that's the non-silence part of it, I think, too, right? What the unspoken that we kind of constantly have to make spoken in some ways.
Yeah. You know when a literary event is working, is when you hear, and y'all just did that. Is the academic version now. But probably we should give over to questions.
I was just also going to say the other thing is when they're like, so we're having a great old time up here. We would love you all to join us in that great old time and conversation. Questions, comments, interjections, intersections. Please be sure to take the mic. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you all. It's taken me a lot of courage to stand up here and share this with you, Kai. When you mentioned about the deers in Jamaica, I heard that story before, but I haven't read it in your book. You know what came to my mind was a song that my mother would sing when she was most happy. And I can't sing, but I will try. It goes something like, home, home on the range, where the deer and the antelope. You know, where seldom is heard the discouraging word, and the skies are like all day, you know. And I don't know why she loved that. This is Jamaica in the 70s. And this was her favorite song. She was a very religious person.
Yeah.
But this was her go-to song. So it seemed like she might have prefigured of the deer. So I just wanted to share that.
Nice, thank you.
I saw hands. Maybe.
No? I can ask Lauren more questions.
Nobody wants to talk. The sea for me is it. I live close to the sea. I was born there, right across from where you are to where I am. And the sounds of the sea, I hear them in my dreams. When I came to New York first 40 years ago, I would just, my friend and I would be, we were both from the same, she's a little further down the road on the same stretch.
Right.
And we would walk together, and whenever we see a fountain, one of them things there in the city, we just walk to it. We don't say, let's go over there by the water. We just end up by the fountain, just to hear the sound of water. So when I thought of the island, this island isn't silent, it's the sea that I hear.
Right.
I've since moved back to St. Kitts, well, sort of. And yes, stayed there a couple of months at a time. And I hear the sea. And of course, the traffic now, because it's a main road, wants to take the sea away. But in the nights, you know, in the traffic, we're in St. Kitts. That's a small island with too many cars, but they go to sleep at nights. And you hear that sound of the sea. And a lot of my poems, the sea ends up in a lot of my poems. I think I have to stop writing about the sea now.
No,
Or maybe not.
if Walcott was here, he would agree very heavily with you. He thinks the sea is that thing that connects all Caribbean people and writers. And he was very disappointed in me that the sea hadn't been so central, but he would be so pleased to hear it is so for others.
Yeah.
The sea is history, right?
The sea is history.
Yeah, no, that's nice. No, I have this, well, it's question time, so I don't want to wrap it like, but I can say it quickly. Like, I have this thing where I'm trying to tease out. I don't know if it's essay or poem or what, but it's around the sea and the mythology of the sea in the Caribbean, and how coming up as a poet, you feel like you have to write about the sea. And some of us can't swim. Some of us don't come from it. Some of us much more land.
Interiors.
Some of us see the sea for the first time when we was 8. But I was just interested in that mythology.
Right.
That you have to. It's sort of like something pushing you towards the sea.
And it's a space that we've theorized so much from dialectics to.
But I'm saying, why don't we have poetry about not being able to swim?
Yeah, I don't know.
Sea honeyfish.
You know, why do we have a poem about, you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's good.
Anyway, we probably will hear it. I'll read it at some point.
If you guys have a question, we can close with a poem each, if you want. Yeah, sure. So Lauren.
You see how this man see y'all, I don't know if you noticed my Trini colors, where I was like, I have these two Jamaican men, I have to root myself or they're going to run me over.
No, you will read it.
All right.
Go on.
All right.
No, you just read it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Hello.
Back to Jason.
All right, let me read a poem.
Oh, wait,
Hi.
what's happening?
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh,
question.
sorry.
Thank you. I am, I have ancestors from Jamaica. I've never been to Jamaica. So I do want to ask for advice. What should I do when I do go to Jamaica, when I go to Black River? How can I speak with my ancestors who, are just up on Dean, coming from having their own plantation, having their own land, walking Black River? How can I ask them questions? How can I trust them? I have one aunt who is a poet. Everyone has gone back to Jamaica. But how can I speak to them about this?
I love that question, and I'm not even. I think I need to think about it. It's a really important question, I find. What you thinking?
I don't have a Black Rock or Jamaica answer, but I think one of the things about re-entering spaces is just openness, right? Like, I don't know, I'm a vibes person. I tell people that all the time, right? I want to go into a space and vibe it out, and that has to do with attunement, intention, and all the woo-woo things. And so I think that if you're feeling called to a place, if you're thinking that that place has something to tell you, you can't go to that place with ideas about what you're supposed to get and what you're supposed to have. You have to go there to receive. And so that, to me, becomes how to prepare yourself in a posture of openness and in a posture of listening and reception, and then kind of trusting your own discernment in that space. That's the woo-wooest thing ever, but it's all I have.
Because my instinct of an answer was, you cannot. He asked, how can I get them to talk, or how can I? You can't. That's my gut feeling. You kind of get what you get. There's a way of entering spaces that has become really important for me, and a lot of this comes probably from being a kid and reading Jamaica Kincaid's A Small Place, and recognizing that so often we enter a place waiting for some kind of magic to happen, waiting for it to reveal its layers of history and magic, etc., etc. Every place is mundane. And you will never know a place until you understand how mundane it is. And the more you try to layer and impose magic and meaning on that place, it will be a great story, but you do not know the place. You do not know a place until you know it as mundane, everyday, boring, and just the life in which, the landscape in which several people have to live their lives. That's what places are. And that's a much harder way to know a place, to know it without its magic. That's what I think.
Yeah, I'll read.
No, man, there's one more question.
Yeah.
Sorry to pause you again.
Oh, that's good. Because we had gone on a different program, so we read, but there are questions. So yeah, let's roll.
Do the question phase. Okay.
See,
Thank you. I've really enjoyed listening to you all. I'm Trini, and around this year or this year going into the next year, I will have lived half of my life in the U.S. and half at home. And so I think I don't even live in New York anymore. I went to college in New York, but now I live in San Francisco. San Francisco is diverse, but not as diverse as New York. There's way less Caribbean people. I guess, what does it mean to be Caribbean in America? Can I still call myself Caribbean? So I love that question because it was advice, so I'm asking for advice. Can I still call myself Caribbean? Also, we're talking about language. Like, what is in an accent? Should I be showing up to my job, like corporate America, with my Trini accent all the time? It's hard. It's also hard after 18 years in this country, and it's just to me, like my parents are still at home, so Advice, please.
I'm laughing because I had a whole series of abandoned poems called Tipping Point, the series that you will never see, that was literally thinking about that moment when I had tipped over into having lived more here than there. And Kwame, bless his heart, he's like, that's not enough to write more than one poem. I know it feels deep, it's not. And that man has never led me wrong. And so I think it's a rite of passage, right? It's that moment where we come to reckon with what it means to belong in any space and event. I just did an interview with Shara McCullum coming out in Kalaloo, check it out. But one of the things she said was, I'm Jamaican because I claim Jamaica, I insist on Jamaica, and I return to Jamaica. And so, we are our insistences sometimes, we are our articulations, we are our context, right? And so I feel like in some ways, who gonna come and take the Trini from you? Like, how are they gonna do that?
Absolutely.
I don't eat pepper, they can't take it from me.
Just claim it.
But also with the accent thing, I was just like, listen, what thing Caribbean people know how to do is survive.
Yeah, we shape.
We know how to survive.
Yeah.
Anywhere you're going to find some Trini doing a thing, have a hustle. So, some Jamaican person, I'm running somebody in the airport, I was like, anyway, so what we do and the innovations we make and the shifts the shape shifting, right? The things that we do to belong where we don't belong, which is the history of the Caribbean. I mean, I don't know. They can't take that from me.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. I'm talking so much.
Yeah.
I'm moderating poorly.
No,
Jason.
we're at different places as well, based on our needs. Where I am personally is just trying to come from my accent as a default. So we just talk to people in a patois and expect them to understand me. So it's different moments.
Yeah. But also, one of the odd things for me is like, accent is no longer sacred for me. I mean, not even nation to some extent. Like, I think about it, like, this has happened in the last 200 years. The human suddenly came up with nation. And now humans born in a particular landscape will say, I am Jamaican, and that gives you some special magical thing because you happen to be born in this geographic part of the world. They're just ways that we have organized. I mean, whatever story we tell is just, this is the way we are narrating ourselves in this moment. There's nothing magical about it.
But I have to disagree, but there's usefulness to there is usefulness to that narration. I would say I find a lot of usefulness to it and a lot of safety sometimes.
Yeah, I no longer do. And I get it, I get the sentiment, but I refuse it.
Yeah, no,
I refuse it because I think it does something else that we can say.
For me, what it does, if it's, can, unpack it, is that it creates a capsule within my day. Sometimes when I see people and I enter a different cultural capsule, and that for me could be like a break. Sometimes it's just a break from the stream of England.
I mean, I get it, but it is when we insist that there is something extraordinarily magical, and I'm like, stop that insistence.
Yeah, well, I think I get what you mean.
We have to be more pliable with it.
Yeah. Well, magical,
but I think the thing that we also have to wrestle with is how can all of these narratives coexist without insisting on the supremacy of one of them? Yeah. And that if you don't align yourself with that supreme narrative,
absolutely,
then you're an outsider, you don't belong, you can't this, you can't. That's, I think, the thing we're talking about. Yeah. Because sometimes it's just like these Americans, not we Americans, please. Right. But other times I'm like, no, I'm in this number too. And so, how can we move in and out of narratives? How can we make narratives with enough doors and windows and gaps and light that we don't have to trap ourselves in them and then insist on them, fight for them, kill for them?
What, Lauren?
To what end? To what end?
Yeah.
Anyway,
let me read a poem. Because me's a poet. Yeah, come on and read a poem. This one is called Those Who, and I chosen it before. I was saying what I was saying about time. It's so interesting. Anyway, those who can afford
rolling up on
time.
me with the hook.
Okay, it's not too long. Those who can afford time. Who wanders lonely as a cloud with 3 golden retrievers? Not me. No, not me. I could never understand this poetry. Never understand what the poem was saying and how this could be poetry for me when my English teacher drilled the imagination of a white man's country. Didn't know how, but somehow I knew this wandering was not for me, because ours was not the same kind of time. Our wandering never so accidental, so entire, so free, as if nothing was coming, as if no hawk was near, as if they owned the land and the mansion on it, as if tomorrow and forever was theirs, as if they had the right to take their time, because everything about them so refined, so secure, so clean. So Wordsworth's poem never made sense. I'd never stopped to listen to the poems about trees and mushrooms and odd cute things and birds whose names I could never pronounce. My poetry was Tom the Village DJ. More material, I said, than the woods, than the lives of those who loafed and bought their time with money. I thought, those who had all the time in the world.
Lauren gave me a look like, you know I'm in charge. A Psalm for Gay Boys. The poem came in the middle of writing this book, and I just saw one of those, awful videos. It don't happen as much in Jamaica as you might think, but this is one of those unfortunate moments where you had an account of someone who was run out of the community because of queerness. And he just said one thing that I found that became the epigraph for this. He said, when me leave, me I forgot through the bushes, cause if me did take the road, them would have killed me. A Psalm for Gay Boys. Here that is the confession and the truth and the softness amongst the thorns, where the married men roam at night, their trousers unzipped, where we are kissed by the same lips that curse us, where we suck the salt softly from each other's necks, but only at night, where we hide, where we are never hidden. Where are the shadows? The shadows being our refuge and strength, a present help on the day of judgment. Where is the judgment? Where is no judgment? Where is the escape, but only at night, when the married men chase us and curse us with the same lips, where we run to, where we stop running, where men hang their jackets in trees, where the moon reveals the shapes of shoulders floating like Scott's apostrophe to pain, a landscape of strange lynchings. Where is the sobbing? Where is the eyeing? Where we trace our fingers against each other's bare and trembling backs, where we kneel, where our mouths are full of things harder than prayers. Where is the away from home and the way home and the roadway in the wilderness and the way where there was no way, where we come to again and again and again. Here that is the limboed land, a place between places, the ends of the earth. Here that is the hear my cry, O Lord, my God, attend now to my prayer.
I'm going to say thank you to the BCLF team. Thank you for being an awesome audience. And sharing with you Revolution Chronicle, and I've been naming them after the number of days after the inauguration. The fires have not ceased, though the wannabe Nobel said, stop right now. On Truth Social, Truth Unsocial, everyone is claiming to be playing 4D chess, but Bibi seems to be knocking pawns left and right, on the right and the left. My eyes fill when I think about Gaza, sorrow, shame, and rage running the mascara I still wake up and wear somehow. The Food Lions freezers went out, and 2 dumpsters of food were swarmed by people with boxes. We're in Harrisonburg, Virginia, not Gaza, Palestine. But Jeff has rented Venice for his wedding, and 90 private jets will inbound celebrities. The Venetians retaliate with pool noodles and signs that say, if you're rich enough to rent Venice, you should pay taxes. So much for a romantic getaway. Elon eloped with American data, and Trump never drove his Tesla anyway. They flirt with mutual destruction, but can't quite pull the trigger. Figures, big, beautiful Bill, black-eyed the boy, and he won't wear red hats anymore. This is your brain on drugs, Nancy wags from the portrait tucked into a closet. No more contracts for you, said the big guy, and you better kiss the tie if you want to play. This Juneteenth is a slap in the face to small businesses, but the sad parade of sloppy marching and old tanks is a party. Happy Snooze Day. I forgot the plane, the women waving their hair harem-like. I forgot the WhatsApp war plans and million-dollar jets sliding into the sea. I'd forget more if I could, but I can't executive order my brain into surrender. The resistance I can offer. Write it down. Remember.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yes. So this is a product of what happens when you go big school. Stay in school, guys. We have so much more coming up. Did you enjoy this, by the way?
Thank you.
In true BCLF style, because our superpower is biting off more than we can chew, we have a lot coming up. So